Alright, it is North here, back at it again with a brand new conspiracy video, and today we discuss where the alphas might be living. Now I'm just gonna say right off the bat that I will be referencing Julian 2's video on the subject during this theory. So with that, let's just dive straight into it. The main thing in Julian's theory that I disagree with is the idea that all the alphas don't live in their dens, that Greeley doesn't live in his hideout, or that Liza doesn't live in her garden. I mean, I don't think it's too impossible to think that they could hypothetically live in these houses, and I just think they could. So yeah, all the alphas live in their houses, and with that, we're gonna figure out where these houses are. Alright, let's start with Greeley. Greeley clearly lives in a volcano, and it has to be one of the two volcanoes that we already know exists in Jama. Now this could be either the volcano in the middle of Jama, that has like phantoms coming out of it, that's from falling phantoms, and is supposedly the one from the adventure, and is debatably Mount Shavir. But there's actually another volcano in Jama on the Play Wild map. As you can see, it's smack in the middle between Jama and the Phantom Land, just randomly hanging out in the ocean. You know, nothing weird going on here. So which one is Greeley's hideout? Now I think it's pretty obvious that he lives off the coast of Jama, near this volcano, but there's a lot more evidence to support this idea than meets the eye. For example, Greeley wouldn't really want to live in Jama. Like, he's not really a people person, he really likes to be sort of alone and in solitude, and this volcano is kind of like no man's land. I mean, no one really goes there, it doesn't belong to the Phantoms or Jama, but he can still sort of supervise Jama and be a protector, yet also study the Phantoms, which is kind of his whole character. Plus, geographically, it does make sense. We can see Jama Township to the far northwest of Greeley's volcano, and Jama Township is to the far northwest of this volcano, so logic. And we can also see the Phantom Lands from this volcano, just like you can here. Now I think that's actually a slightly off version of how things work geographically, but it's possible that here we're only seeing the very edges of the Phantom territory, only what they've just taken over, because we can see that the Phantom territory is expanding, and some areas are not completely purple, but just dotted with purple and green. So it actually makes perfect sense. Plus, the Phantom Fortress is like right there, and it would make sense the Phantom Fortress would be near the edge of the Phantom territory because, well, the Phantom Fortress is probably the biggest thing that can help the Phantoms spread their ruin further. That's exactly what causes these giant holes in the ground and does so much destruction, so it would very much make sense that the Phantom Fortress would be on the edge of this territory. And you might be wondering, well, it's not the Phantom Fortress, it doesn't have legs, and it looks much more like a castle. May I point out to you, it is the Phantom Fortress. I mean, first of all, it's pretty obvious that this is a lot different from this. So, yeah, it can definitely change forms depending on what its use is in that one moment. Plus, there's this. As you can see, it has a phantom eye. So, yeah, it is the Phantom Fortress. Like, it's not really up for debate. So, Jama Township, then rocks block off the rest of Jama and a bunch of ocean, and then Phantom Lands. Next off, where the rest of the alphas live. Well, this is actually quite easy to figure out. As Julian 2 touched on, all of these dens have three things in common. They all have a whole bunch of grass and are clearly very fertile lands. They all have running water and they're all sort of mountainous. But I'm going to go even more in depth in explaining how each and every single one works, just so we don't get spammed in the comments like, oh, how does this apply to it? How does this apply to it? So I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to tell you about all this right now. Cosmo's den, it clearly has this fertile land, mountainous region, and the den literally has water running through it. So I think it's very clear that water does exist in this den, because otherwise there couldn't be water running through it. I mean, there clearly has to be water nearby for there to be a stream of water running through his den. Graham's den, bam, fertile land, mountainous region. Source of water. Moving on. Next up, we have Peck. Now, Peck is actually quite interesting. Fertile land, water, and these rocks here in the background really do look mountainous. Sir Gilbert. Fertile land, water, and giant stones that are very mountainous-esque. Liza. Fertile, mountainous, running water. But there is another thing that is really specific to Liza's den, and that is these houses. They're just there for like no reason. Like, why would they just be there randomly? Would someone be living in them? The answer is yes. Someone would be living in them. I can't be the only one who thinks it's weird that there are just these houses here for like no reason. Like, there clearly has to be someone living in them. Why else would they be there? Besides, look how decorated this place looks compared to the rest of the den. It clearly looks like someone is living there. There are even lanterns on the houses. Take a look at this den. It clearly looks like after the wall, it kind of stops being Liza's house and starts being Liza's garden. Now, this village clearly sort of belongs to her or is her property? I don't know about that, but it's clearly in her like garden. But after the wall, there are no more like rooms or indoor areas for Liza to live. It's all just like a huge garden with like gazebos and like things galore. So why would there be this sort of inhabited area? It just doesn't make any sense. There's like this nicely decorated gazebo and these beautiful cobblestones. There's just no reason why someone wouldn't be living there. Besides, like I said, there's literally houses for people to live in. That is the only purpose of houses. And these houses even resemble the small house. I don't know how else to say it. Someone is living there. It's not up for debate. It's a fact. I mean, yeah, I get these alphas are very, like, rich and powerful, so they clearly have very, like, grand houses, but just, it does not make sense. And you might say, well, what if she just has guests over? Technically speaking, that could be the case, but I really don't think so. This really seems like some sort of public area, which means animals go there, meaning that their houses can't be outside of Jamal. They have to be somewhere in Jamal, right? But where? Well, before Belush came out, Julian 2 thought, well, it must be Belush. But Belush has come out, and they clearly don't live there, so where could they live? Well, there's no other land on the world map that fits all the criteria we set so well. So, where could they live? Well, for this, we're gonna have to use our handy dandy little Play Wild map. Yes, that's right, guys. They live somewhere on the Play Wild map. More specifically, this bottom area right here. As you can see, it's very fertile, clearly has a lot of running water, and it's mountainous. It even has that huge pond in Liza's garden. But wait, it's clearly not part of Jamal, right? I mean, it can't be. We can't visit it, so it's not part of Jamal. Well, actually, it is. Just look at Bunny Burrow. I don't know how, but even though it's not on the world map, bunnies are still living there, and it's clearly part of Jamal because bunnies live there, and it's being attacked by phantoms. So, loophole? I know that's just to make the game flow as a whole, but if that loophole applies to Bunny Burrow, I think it would apply to this theory as well. Anyway, I hope that's enough to convince you all because frankly, that's all I got. Anyway, by now I hope you guys know the drill, but I'll say it anyway. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and of course, comment if you have anything to add on, dispute, question, etc. And stay closum, possum, and fantastic. Bye-bye!
Thank you.